All my life, I felt like I didn't belong. I could be in a room full of people and still feel completely alone. Not because I hated them, but because something in me just didn't match this world. I didn't laugh at what they laughed at. I didn't dream what they dreamed. I didn't follow what they followed. While they chased noise, I searched for meaning. While they moved with the crowd, I stood still, listening to something deeper. Something I couldn't explain. Something that no one else seemed to hear. I was the quiet one when everyone else was loud. The deep soul in a world addicted to the shallow. I didn't fit in, and I paid the price. They called me strange, too intense, too sensitive, too different. Doors closed, people left, and life kept whispering, "You don't belong here." At first, I believed that voice was punishment. I thought I was broken, forgotten, unworthy. But now I know. That voice was sacred, because what looked like rejection was actually redirection. I wasn't being pushed away. I was being set apart, because I was never meant to fit in. I was meant to wake up. And maybe, just maybe, you were too. If something inside you has always felt out of place, if your soul never felt at home in this world, then listen carefully. This message is for you. You are not lost. You are not late. You are not cursed. You were chosen. Before we go deeper, like this video, if your heart is already stirring, subscribe if your soul knows there's more, and drop a 99 in the comments, because 99 is the number of the one who went missing, and the shepherd left everything behind, just to bring that one home. Let's begin. I remember being a child and realizing something about me didn't match the world I was born into. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was subtle, quiet, like a whisper beneath the surface of everything. While other kids ran freely, laughed carelessly, and fit effortlessly into every group, I felt like a guest in someone else's dream. I would sit in classrooms and wonder why no one else seemed to feel the weight I felt, why they could talk for hours about things that felt empty, why they could ignore suffering, and I couldn't even walk past a crying stranger without carrying their sadness like it was mine. I remember asking questions no one had answers for. Why are we really here? What happens when we sleep? Why do I feel sadness in rooms where everyone is smiling? Most people would laugh, or just look at me strangely. Some teachers told my parents I was too reflective, too emotional, too intense. I was told to stop thinking so much, to just be a kid. But I couldn't, because while the other children played outside, I was inside, staring at the ceiling, wondering why the stars made me cry. I could feel beauty in silence, and pain in places where nothing seemed wrong. At the time, I thought it was a curse. I thought something inside me was broken. Why did I feel so much when no one else did? But now I understand. That deep sensitivity was not a flaw. It was the echo of a calling, a signal from the soul, reminding me I came here with a different blueprint. See, the world teaches us to measure ourselves by how well we fit in, by how many friends we have, how normal we seem, how good we are at blending in. But what if the ones who never blended were never meant to? What if your childhood confusion was actually the beginning of an ancient memory returning? What if those strange feelings, the overwhelming empathy, the loneliness that haunted your early years, were all signs, codes embedded in your spirit, unlocking piece by piece as you walked through life? And what if I told you that the very things that made you feel like an outsider are the proof that you were chosen for something rare? Because the world doesn't need more people who follow. It needs souls who remember. And remembering hurts at first. It makes you feel crazy, alone, misunderstood. But it also makes you powerful. Because while others lived on the surface, you were already listening beneath it. While others memorized answers, you were searching for the truth. And the truth is, you've always been marked, not by the world, but by something higher. And if you look back, if you're really honest with yourself, you'll see the signs were always there. Not just once, not twice, but again and again. In dreams you couldn't explain, in moments of déjà vu that felt like warnings, in sudden chills when someone spoke a lie near you, in the way you always knew when something wasn't right, even before it happened. This isn't imagination, this is intuition, and it's not common, it's sacred. You weren't born to follow paths, you were born to carve them, even when your hands are bleeding, even when you're the only one walking it. Because some souls aren't sent to continue the story, they're sent to rewrite it. And the more you remember who you truly are, the more the world around you will resist. But don't stop. Don't shrink. Don't turn back. Because the moment you accept that your difference was never a mistake is the moment your true journey begins. And what comes next will either terrify you or awaken something so powerful inside of you that you'll never be the same again. Are you ready for that next part? Good. Then keep watching. As I got older, something strange began to happen. I would walk into a room and without saying a word, everything changed. The atmosphere, the energy, the way people looked at me. Some would light up, smile, lean in like they felt something familiar. Others would tense up, look away, or suddenly find a reason to leave. And for the longest time, I blamed myself. I kept wondering, did I say something wrong? Did I offend them just by being here? But I hadn't done anything. I was just existing. Still, the reactions came. Admiration from a few, resentment from many. Some people were drawn to me like a moth to a flame, but others looked at me like I was a threat. Even when I offered nothing but kindness, they responded with coldness. Even when I stayed silent, they seemed disturbed. It took me years to understand. The energy you carry speaks long before your mouth does. And when you carry light, that light exposes what others are trying to hide. Not everyone wants to be seen. Not everyone is ready to feel. Not everyone is willing to confront the shadows they've buried. And the moment your presence stirs something in them they're not ready to face, they turn on you, not because you're wrong, but because you're real. And in a world built on masks, real is dangerous. I realized people weren't reacting to me. They were reacting to what I revealed inside of them. I became a mirror, reflecting everything they were pretending not to be. And that's when the attacks began. Not physical, not obvious, but subtle. Passive aggression, dismissive comments, fake smiles that hid quiet envy. Sudden distance from those who once called me friend. I could feel the shift, not just in individuals, but in entire environments. There were places I simply wasn't welcome in. Not because I broke the rules, but because I broke the illusion. You see, when you walk in light, you don't need to expose anyone. Your presence does it for you. Your peace highlights their chaos. Your clarity makes their confusion uncomfortable. Your depth threatens their shallowness. Your freedom agitates their chains. And for many people, it's easier to label you too much than to ask themselves why they feel so little. They'll say you're intense, that you overthink, that you're arrogant or weird or intimidating. But what they're really saying is, you make me feel things I've buried. You see through masks I don't want to remove. You shine too brightly, and my shadows can't survive in your presence. It's not your fault. It's your frequency. Some people don't hate you. They hate how small they feel around you. And instead of rising higher, they try to pull you lower. But you weren't sent here to shrink. You weren't born to dim your light just so others feel comfortable in their darkness. You came to awaken, to disrupt, to ignite. And yes, awakening is messy. Not everyone will thank you. Not everyone will stay. But the ones who do, the ones who see you and don't flinch, those are the ones you're here to lead, to love, to walk with. The rest, let them go, with peace. No bitterness, no blame. Because your light is not for everyone. It's for the ones who are ready. And if people start falling away as you rise, if rooms grow colder as your spirit gets warmer, if the world starts calling you strange, dangerous, difficult, then good. It means the fire in you is real. It means the mission has begun. But here's what they'll never tell you. The more your light bothers them, the closer you are to breaking through. And something is about to break. Can you feel it? Because I can. And once it does, there's no turning back. There were nights I laid awake and wondered if anyone could truly see me. Not the version of me I showed the world, but the real me. The soul behind the eyes. The heart that kept breaking in silence. I remember seasons of my life where the loneliness was so heavy I could hear it. A silence so deep it echoed through my chest like an empty cathedral. I watched people walk away from me for no reason. Friends I trusted suddenly drifted. Connections faded like dreams in the morning, and at first, I thought something was wrong with me. Why does everyone leave? Why can't I hold on to anyone? Why am I always the one trying to understand, while no one tries to understand me? I begged for connection, for someone to stay, to sit with me in the dark, to get it. But no one came. And for a while I thought that was proof of my unworthiness. I thought the silence was punishment, that maybe I had done something to deserve this emptiness. But I was wrong. The truth is, the silence wasn't rejection. It was protection. It was preparation. I wasn't being abandoned. I was being set apart. See, when you're chosen for something greater, your path will never look like everyone else's. You won't be able to follow the crowd, because the crowd was never meant to go where you're going, and before you're launched, you're hidden. Before the revelation comes the wilderness. Before the mission begins, there's always a separation. Because when you carry a calling that can shift lives, that can wake souls, that can break generational chains, you don't get to skip the solitude. You don't get to avoid the silence. Because the silence is where the training begins. In that stillness, you learn to hear the voice within, not the voice of the world, not the opinions of others, but your own divine guidance, the kind of wisdom you can't learn from books, the kind of strength that's not built in comfort, but in desert places, empty rooms, cold mornings with no replies, tears cried into pillows that no one ever saw. That's where your soul was forged, and maybe you didn't even realize it. But during those lonely nights, you were remembering who you are, piece by piece, breath by breath. You were shedding who the world told you to be, so you could become who you came here to become. Because only in isolation, when all distractions are stripped away, do you begin to see yourself clearly. That's why the chosen often walk alone, not because they're broken, but because their path is sacred, and not everyone can walk it with them. People will call you distant. They'll say you're hard to reach. They'll assume you're cold or disconnected. But what they don't see is that in your solitude, you are being recalibrated, rewired, refined by the fire of your own soul. And when you emerge, you don't return the same. You return with vision, with clarity, with a heart that no longer begs to be understood, because it finally understands itself. This loneliness you feared so much, it was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to uncover you. So don't resent the isolation. Don't curse the seasons where no one stayed. They were necessary. Because had you been surrounded, you might have listened to the wrong voices. You might have settled. You might have forgotten your mission entirely. But you didn't. You endured. You waited. You listened. And now something inside you is shifting again. Can you feel it? That quiet certainty in your chest, that pull you can't explain, that knowing that you were never really alone, because while the world turned its back, the universe was watching, preparing, and now it's your turn to step forward. But don't. Think for a second that the solitude is over. Because there's a different kind of loneliness that comes with leadership, a different silence that follows purpose. But this time, you won't fear it, you'll welcome it, because now you know the dark wasn't your enemy. It was your teacher, and soon, very soon, everything that broke you in silence will become the very thing that builds others in the light. Behind my smile, there was a war, a silent war, invisible, relentless. There were nights when I closed my eyes wishing to disappear, and entire days when I breathed only by inertia. Not because I wanted to keep going, but because I didn't know how to stop without completely giving up. But no one noticed. There were no witnesses, no applause for holding on, just me, and that emptiness that swallowed everything I was. It felt like life kept testing me again and again, without warning, without pause, without mercy. And the most unsettling part was that those tests had no form. They weren't things I could point at. They weren't illnesses or visible tragedies. They were silent trials, internal, spiritual. They were thoughts that wouldn't leave me alone. They were decisions I had to make in silence, with no one understanding the weight they carried. They were moments when I had to smile, while something inside me was screaming. Have you ever felt like you were being watched by a higher force, as if your reaction in the darkest moments was being written down in an invisible book? That's exactly how it felt. Every time I chose not to give up, even when everything inside me begged for the opposite, it was like a sacred part of me lit up, as if every unseen tear was feeding a flame the world couldn't put out. Those tests weren't punishments. They were training, forging, silent transformation. Because while others were shaped by titles and achievements, I was carved through silences and invisible scars. While others showed their progress online, I was advancing in the soul, walking ground only I could feel, carrying battles only I could sense. And yet, something in me kept growing. Strength, clarity, fire. Because when you have nothing left to hold on to, when everything has been taken from you, that's when you discover what you really are. And now I see it. I wasn't being broken. I was being built. Every loss taught me what was essential. Every rejection showed me the right path. Every silence led me to a deeper voice within. The world never saw my internal battles, but today it can see what those battles awakened. Do you know what was the most shocking part? That many of those tests made no sense while I was going through them. It was like walking through an endless tunnel, no signs, no map, no hope. But now, from the other side, I see that every dark step was guided, that nothing was random, that even the emptiest moments were filled with purpose. I was tested in secret, so I could shine in eternity, and maybe you were too. Maybe everything you're facing right now isn't punishment, but a sign that you were chosen. Because only those who were created to speak with power are tested in silence. Now tell me, how many times have you endured without anyone knowing? If your answer aches in your chest, then you already know what comes next. What comes next is the awakening. One day, everything changed. But it wasn't with fireworks, nor with a mystical revelation from the sky. It was silent. It was internal. It was deep. That day, I stopped asking life, why me? And I began to ask, with my soul trembling, what for? And that single question opened a door that had always been in front of me, but that I couldn't see while I felt like a victim. Because it wasn't a curse. It was a calling. I wasn't being forgotten. I was being shaped, carved, refined. That pain that haunted me had a purpose. That constant rejection was divine redirection. That eternal silence was invisible training, so I could learn to hear what is not spoken. It was there, in that moment of absolute clarity, that I understood something that shook me from within. I didn't come to this world to fit in. I came to awaken. I wasn't born to be accepted. I was born to activate. I wasn't just another one. I was one of those who came to break patterns, to shatter chains, to disrupt systems, to ignite sleeping souls. And suddenly, everything made sense. My sensitivity, my depth, my uncomfortable questions weren't mistakes. They were signs, marks of a soul that had crossed dimensions with a specific mission on this earth. That day I awoke. And I didn't wake like someone who opens their eyes and stays the same. I woke like someone who can never fall asleep again. The truth didn't give me peace. It gave me purpose. I no longer needed others to understand me. I no longer sought approval, nor craved to fit in. Because, finally, I knew who I was. And when you know who you are, the world can applaud you or reject you, but nothing changes what you carry within. Since that awakening, I stopped walking with fear, and I began walking with purpose. My past was no longer my shame. It was my map. Every tear, every dark night, every silent wound were pieces of the puzzle that now, finally, I could see complete. And here I am. Not as someone who overcame everything, but as someone who understood everything, and that changes everything. Because when you understand that you were chosen, you stop begging for love, and you begin to radiate it. You stop hiding your light, and you start igniting others. That day, not only did I awaken, my legacy awakened. And now I ask you, how many times have you felt like you didn't belong in this world? Maybe you're not here to belong. Maybe you're here to transform it. And if something inside you lit up, while you listen to me, just wait to hear what's coming. So listen closely. If your whole life felt like a closed door, if every room made you feel like a stranger, if every step forward ended in silence or resistance, it wasn't a coincidence. It was alignment. You weren't losing. You were being led. Every scar you carry was a signature. Every tear you cried, a baptism. Every shadow you walked through, sacred ground. Because those who are called are not crowned in comfort. They are forged in fire. You weren't made to follow. You were born to awaken, and now your time has come. You no longer need permission. You don't need them to understand. Because the calling on your life was never meant to be understood by the world. It was written in the spirit. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are right. On time. You were hidden because you were holy. You were rejected because your energy speaks truth. You were silenced because your voice shakes dimensions. And now the world is trembling because it knows you're remembering who you are. Chosen, awakened, unstoppable. Say this out loud with me right now. I was never rejected. I was being prepared. Type it in the comments. flood this space with it.